Hey, this is Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live in Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA prime Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course the king of all those gigantic and massive cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I've ever had, probably be the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call, find out what's for dinner. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100 for UppercutChops.com. Yes! All right, welcome in, everybody, on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast. Thanks for joining us also, everybody, in select markets on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, and WOW Cable Television affiliates, plus Hotel TV in all Nielsen-rated markets when and where applicable, plus Chicago Food Favorites. Everybody checking us out there, make sure you check out Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook, folks. It's a fun group, and you can have fun posting your favorite restaurants, your favorite recipes, and any other ideas and thoughts on food, whatever you're looking for. Guess what? Chicago Food Favorites has it, so make sure you check it out. So, in today's episode, I want to ask everybody, what do you really think sport is? What is a sport? You say, well, come on, man, that's kind of an elementary question. Okay, well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Some of this may surprise you. Of course, we think of the dictionary and definitions from Oxford Languages, and what do they say? Well, as a noun, an activity involving physical exertion and skill in which an individual or team competes against another team or others for entertainment. For example, team sports such as baseball and soccer. Similar competitive games, physical recreation, and physical activities. Informally speaking, a person who behaves in a good or specific way in response to teasing, defeat, or a simply trying situation. Go on, be a sport. As a verb, wear or display. So a distinctive or noticeable item. He was sporting a huge handlebar mustache. Right? Hey, we've heard that one before. And also could be used as to amuse oneself or play in a lively, energetic way. The children sported in the water. Well, look, that's all fine and dandy. But think about this. The Council of Europe Charter on Sport uses the following definition. Quote, sport means all forms of physical activity which through casual or organized participation aim at expressing or improving physical fitness and mental well-being, forming social relationships, or obtaining results in competitive at all levels. Close quote. Well, that's kind of interesting. So then you ask, well, what is technically a sport? So therefore, according to the Reflector, University of Indianapolis, they say, quote, an athletic activity requiring skill or physical prowess, close quote. Some prominent examples of sports include racing, baseball, tennis, basketball, golf, bowling, wrestling, etc. And that's fine. But why, they say, pool or billiards is not a sport. So according to The Guardian, in the case of pool, it's not like football, baseball, on the likes of the other sports, as is tennis, volleyball, badminton, etc. Games like pool, darts, golf, and curling, yes, curling, do not meet those criteria. Why the hell is curling in the Olympics anyway? It's just a big game of shuffleboard. Anyway, in pool, both players occupy the playing surface and can influence the other's game, but they do not compete at the same time. So if they don't compete at the same time, what are we talking about here? So you say, well, is pool a sport? I think a lot of people out there would say absolutely pool's a sport. Me personally, it's a game of strategy. I think that it qualifies more of a sport than some of the other alleged sports. But how about fencing? Yes, fencing is a combat sport, in case you're keeping score, in which two athletes use swords to attack and defend against one another with the aim of striking their opponent in order to score points. And that's according to Olympics.com. And believe it or not, Horse Pilot, there's a site called horsepilot.com. Believe it or not, while horseback riding is primarily a sport, it is also considered a way of life, especially owner riders. How the hell is horseback riding? Just horseback, meandering through the forest, whatever. I'm just horseback riding. Now, if you're competitively riding, I understand that, maybe doing steeplechase or whatever. But how the heck is horseback riding a sport? And then they say, here, how about chess.com? Yes, chess is a sport alongside being a fun board game, strategy game, competition, and a form of art. Okay. Chess should be viewed as a sport, and professional chess players should be viewed as athletes in their own regard. But then we go to pokernews.com. Given that poker is an activity involving physical and mental exertion, which a set of rules and customs where players compete against others, according to pokernews.com, they say poker clearly meets mainstream definition of sports. What? Come on, man. This is nuts. And we can keep going and going. How about this one? This one affects a lot of people. How about gambling? According to 1010XL, our friends down there in Northeast Florida, they say, I like this, gambling doesn't qualify as a sport as it's a more mental situation than physical. The famous poker game, however, is often viewed as an athletic, and it requires both skill and physical participation. How's the physical participation? Where the hell is that? And the games, of course, that can be played online, even though they're virtual, they require some kind of physical participation or exertion. Not really sure how the heck that happens. That's our friends down there over in Jacksonville, Florida. Come on, guys. Come on. Well, how about this one? Oh, by the way, gaming. You have these people playing video games. This is according to Scholastic News, and SN4Scholastic.com. Is playing video games a sport? No! Absolutely not! Many people argue that being an athlete means exerting yourself physically. They say esports don't require much exercise. Most video games are played sitting down, sometimes for hours at a time. Okay, that's according to Scholastic.com, but yet Chess.com, which is the exact same dynamic, just not in video form, they say that chess is a sport. So what are we talking about? So here, let's go over to the BBC. The BBC, British Broadcasting Company, what constitutes a sport? Well, when is a sport not a sport? What exactly makes something a sport? Does it require physical exertion, a governing body, a high level of skill and technical ability? How does an activity go from being seen as a game or a pastime to being officially classified as a sport? So the Council of Europe Charter on Sport uses the following definition. Quote, sport means all forms of physical activity which through casual or organized participation aim at expressing or improving physical fitness and mental well-being, forming social relationships, or obtaining results in competitive and competition at all levels. Close quote. Remove competitive. The point is, does chess do that? Does gaming do that? I don't know. I don't even know that golf does it. I mean, choose. Bowling. Does bowling do that as well? Think about this. I mean, if you could drink a beer and do it, in my opinion, it's not a sport. It's a pastime. And so back to this BBC thing, they say, well, Funding bodies like Sport England look to see if a particular activity meets this definition when determining whether or not they recognize it as a sport. But that does not or has not stopped the debate from continuing to rage on. Darts, is it a sport? Probably not. How about bridge, playing cards? Yeah, bridge. They're saying, 2015, the English Bridge Union challenged a decision by Sport England not to recognize the card game bridge as a sport because it doesn't allow or involve physical activity. It's not a sport, folks. Get over it. And how about this? This is my favorite one. We're going to close this segment out to it. Oh, yeah. Tiddlywinks, the competition inventors mark an anniversary. How about this? You'll like this one. 3 friends who turned the Victorian parlor game of Tiddlywinks into a competitive sport so they could represent their university and mark their 70th anniversary of their club. Bill Steen, 91, by the way, this is BBC. Bill Steen, 91, said the group had been mostly hopeless as athletes and has seen the game as a change of obtaining a prestigious blue, the highest honor earned by a Cambridge University sports person. Come on. I mean, this is ridiculous. Listen, folks, in the next segment, we're going to talk about sports and we're going to talk about music, how music shapes sports and how do we learn it and how do we progress in it. Listen, folks, don't go anywhere. Lots more to come here on the Sports Circus. Back in a few moments.
Can you feel the slow burn as you press against my lips? Your sweetness overtakes me, I'm okay with giving in.
We're a lot different, I ain't looking for the same.
Come a little closer, babe, I wanna play this game.
You're my whiskey,
You're my wine, I wanna feel your body next to mine. Tangled up in the bedsheets, mixing Chardonnay and country. Get me tipsy tonight, I'll drink you up until the sunrise. Wanna wake up with you by my side, mixing whiskey and wine. Be heaven sent. Red lip stain still there from yesterday. You and me, we go together, there's just no other way.
you're my whiskey,
You're my wine, I wanna feel your body next to mine. Tangled up in the bedsheets, mixing Chardonnay and country.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by the music of Jason Owens, and here to tell you all about Jason Owens' music is Jason Owens.
What's going on, everyone? I'm country music artist Jason Owens. It's good to be on the Sports Circus with you, Sal. And you can check my music out at www.jasonowensmusic.com or wherever you stream music.
All right, that's good stuff. And also, Jason, we have somebody with us from your band. Why don't you tell everybody about him, and then we're going to let him tell everybody about himself, too.
Yeah, this is one of the greatest guys I know. He was the best man at my wedding. This is Danny back here. He plays drums for me. He's been with me for many years now, and he's my boy.
All right. And Danny, tell everybody about yourself, your background.
Yeah, so my name's Danny Groh. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, and I'm the drummer for Jason Owens. I also play some bass and guitar. I basically just grew up in music. I did a little stint in music school, and then I've just played and taught professionally since then. So just glad to be out here on the show with Sal and Jason.
All right, that's good stuff. So, we had a discussion yesterday. We were driving around and talking about how do you learn songs so quickly? I mean, this was a really interesting discussion, and it's hard to imagine that you can know 40, 50 songs, whatever the hell it is, or somebody could say, hey, can you play this? And then you're thinking, well, all right, I may know the lyrics, but maybe I don't know the drumming side of it. I don't know the guitar side. Jason, start by telling people what you do for your first plan of attack. Is, let's say somebody says, play this song. Now, you know the song. Like we were talking about this one about playing a country music song backwards, which, of course, that kind of sings to me because it's usually, I lost everything, whatever, right? But in this case, I guess you get everything back. Right, but how do you go about learning that new song so quickly if you want to play it on a set, wherever you're at?
So if we're learning it for a show, I usually just listen to it a few times, try to pick up what I can out of it. But we use this thing called the Nashville number system. If it's not like for my artist gig, and if I'm playing guitar for somebody else, or Danny is, or Danny does it a lot more than me because I have the artist thing going on or whatever. But use this thing called the Nashville number system, and since Danny uses it so much, I think it would be better for Danny to explain it because he is more versed in it than I am.
Yeah, so kind of a crash course in the Nashville number system. It's basically a standardized way of notating a song. So you'll sort of find the key center of the song, and then every note in that key is going to have a number that corresponds with. So the first note is the 1 chord, the second is a 2 chord, and so on. And that's a quick way to get the building blocks of the song down on paper, so that when you're going to a gig, you can show up and be able to play through the song and quickly also be able to change the key of a song. So if you're with a different singer who might sing it higher or lower, you can quickly still use the same numbers, but have it in the key so that they can sing it properly.
So if you're in the key of G, for instance, so G would be your 1, then G, A, B, C, D. So if it was a 1, 4, 5, it'd be like G is 1, C is 4, and D is 5. And then if you're in the key of A would be 1, D would be 4, and E would be 5.
Okay, so for those people that don't know music like you do, they don't know how to read music, how could you explain it in the most simple terms? Maybe somebody has a guitar at home, and like me, I have guitars. I'm a terrible player, but I know how to read music. What about for those people that are listening? Maybe they're an athlete saying, you know what? I can't play anymore, so I want to go play an instrument or something. What does it mean to be, first of all, in the key of whatever? And what do you mean by this 1-4-5 thing? What does all that mean?
So the key is the tonal center of the song. It's like the home base.
So, for example, like if my first chord, maybe it's a G or something,
Yeah,
right?
so if you're in the key of G, your first
Right,
chord
your
would be
first
G.
chord would be G, and your last chord technically would be
Yes,
G, right?
yes.
Yes.
All right, for everybody that doesn't know. Okay, please proceed.
Yeah, so you would start there, and all you really need to know is if it's major, happy sounding, or if it's minor, sad sounding. So you would start on G, and then going through the G major scale, just up the scale. As long as you know that, then you'll be able to match those notes with the number.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Danny just hit it right on the head.
Okay.
Hit the nail right on the head.
Hit the nail on
so-
the head. Attaboy.
Hell yeah.
All right. So the good news is that now we have a basic explanation of what this is. So when you're learning these new songs so quickly, go back to that Nashville number system thing that you mentioned. When is there a library of songs that will say maybe these are in this particular pattern or this pattern or this pattern? How does that work for the average person? How can you explain that so they can get a better idea of what you're really talking about on how quickly you can learn something, because there's basically a roadmap on how to do it?
Yeah, so a lot of songs, even not just in country, but in different genres, will have the same chord progressions because you can't copyright chords. So, for example, if you've got a blues song like Johnny Be Good, that's like a 1-4-5. I could write my own song and use those exact same chords. Now I have to have a different melody and different things like that.
Yeah.
But once you learn, the standard progressions, you'll start realizing how many songs those are in. So then you're already showing up with half the battle done, because it's a 1-5-6-4, and all you have to figure out is what key, and then you just cycle through that same pattern.
Yeah, see, a lot of people don't talk about this stuff, and what I find interesting is maybe you'll have somebody that does vocals for, maybe they wrote their own real popular song, but then you ask them, hey, can you do this particular song? It's in the key of C or something like that, and they can't get there. As a vocalist, why can't they get there, in your opinion?
Are you saying because they can't sing that high or that low? It's
Right.
just not in their range.
Right, what is it with that?
Everyone just has different ranges. Like I'm kind of more like a baritone, so I can sing a little bit lower, like the Johnny Cash stuff, but I can also sing pretty high, but not like Journey high.
Journey high. Okay. Well, I mean, it's interesting because when you talk about chords and notes, a lot of people don't even know what that means. They just like to listen to music. And most people just simply listen to music. So for those people that don't know, what is the difference between a chord and a note? How do you explain that to the average Joe or Josephine out there?
Yeah, I'm sending it back to the music major.
So a chord, I believe the musical definition is, I think it's at least 3 notes played, usually
triad.
at the same time.
Yeah.
A triad, where a note is just literally one
Not
note.
necessarily, because sometimes there are 2. Sometimes there are 2. As I recall, when I was a kid, I think it was 2. Or you can put your finger on one string, for example, on the high E or something. You can have it on the first or second.
like a bar chord, kind of.
Well,
like a 5 chord.
Well, right, but really, technically, I guess you would play 3 strings, right? So there's the 3 you're talking about. Maybe an open D or something, or whatever the heck it is. Okay, so there it is. Go ahead.
Yeah, so 2 chords.
Never mind me, folks. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Go ahead.
Yeah, so 2 chords or 2 notes at one time is considered an interval.
Okay.
But it can sound very similar to a chord. So I think the official definition of a chord is more notes than that.
See, I have to be the foil. I have to be able to throw something in there to try to screw something up. So you purposely correct me. See, folks, that's kind of what I did here, but not. Anyway, go ahead.
But yeah, so a note is just, one note on its own, but you need multiple notes together to make up a chord.
Right. That's what I was looking for. So for those people that don't know, I mean, look, there's a lot that goes into this. And when you're writing a song, some people actually will write note by note, word by word to try to match them. I have a family member that does that. But when you write a song, how do you do it?
So I usually just have an idea, and then I sit down and I'll try to come up with some type of lick or riff, or like that's like a guitar part, like an earworm kind of thing you'd hear at the top of a song or whatever. And then I will, sit down and with that idea, try to just expand on it and try to paint that picture as best as I can. And then if sometimes I'm having a little trouble with it, I'll reach out to somebody else, and we do these things called co-writes, where we write together on a song, just to try to make it the best that we can, because everyone has their strengths and weaknesses.
So from the drumming side of things, and because you're a drummer and also a bassist too, and you play guitar too, right? Yep. So you basically do it all. You're the one-man band, right? So Danny, as the one-man band, when you're trying to, let's just say Jason gives you this set of lyric, and you say, well, maybe I wanted to make it I don't want a ballad, I want something a little bit more upbeat. How do you determine on a metronome, for example, where do you set it at? How do you determine what rate that you want that metronome to go on? And that's the timer thing, folks. That's that click, click, click thing, right? So it keeps time. How do you determine the tempo of this song? Both of you. In our last 30 seconds, I'm gonna ask Danny first, and then when we come back from break, Jason, I want you to expand on it.
Well, I would, whatever Jason sends me, I would try to figure out as close as I can to what the tempo is that he already sent me, and just try the nearest number that'll match that, like 100 beats per minute or something. And then if we play that together, and we'll see how that feels. Sometimes it might feel, well, these lyrics are going to sound better if they're sung faster, or maybe we want a love song ballad, so we're going to slow it down and kind of have a different feel. It just depends on how it feels playing it together.
Yes, that's the part that I find interesting here in the last 20 seconds of the segment. What I find interesting is that when you're writing, what you may think would be something a little bit more upbeat could turn into a ballad, because it just flows better that way. Would you agree or disagree?
Yeah, absolutely agree.
Yeah, that's the part. That's the part that I find interesting. Listen, folks, we're going to be back here in just a few minutes with the boys from Jason Owens Band, and that's actually Jason Owens, and we have Danny over here as well. Danny's his drummer, Danny Grow, right?
Yes.
All right, folks, we're going to be back in just a few. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to come here on the Sports Circus.
She's the cutest girl I've ever seen. When she's fighting mad, it's the funniest thing. Long hair, blue eyes, and a heart of gold. This is the one thing I want you to know. If you want a man that'll love you to the moon and back, never cheat, never lie, yeah, baby, none of that. But slow and steady wins the race. It's the thrill of the chase. Falling in love just ain't the same these days. We might start with a bottle of Jack. Maybe we won't need that. I gotta find a way to call her mine. I know sometimes you gotta take it slow and steady. She's like a locked up bank vault, and I'm trying to crack the code. She's a perfect 10. She's got nowhere else to go. Yeah, I'm trying to show her I'm the kind of man she wants. She's had some real
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. This is country music artist Jason Owens, and this segment is brought to you by me, actually. You can find us online at Jason Owens Music or at our website, www.jasonowensmusic.com. I'm going to hand it back to Ringmaster Sal right now.
All right, there's a big round of applause from everybody. Welcome back to everybody on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates from coast to coast, including our friends over in Honolulu on CBS Sports 1500 KHKA. That's home of the New York Yankees, the San Francisco 49ers, and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Of course, welcoming to everybody else up and down the West Coast on Pick Your Favorite Affiliate and Independent, through the Heartland all the way down to Auburn, Alabama, WAUD, home of the Atlanta Braves. Big hello to our friends over in Atlanta as well, WDJY 99.1 FM, plus everybody else on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, and WOW Cable Television affiliates from coast to coast, Hotel TV, and over 600,000 rooms from coast to coast, as well as everybody watching or listening on Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Make sure you check that out, folks. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. It's a fun group. Have some fun with it. Post your favorite recipes, restaurants. I don't give a damn. It covers all corners of the earth for all you flat earthers out there. And also everybody on the Mars rover, thanks for joining us. All right. So, Jason, in the last segment, talking about writing a song with you and Danny, we have your drummer, Danny, is with us. And Danny, by the way, not just a drummer, also plays bass, also plays guitar. I don't know if he cooks. Do you cook well too?
I don't cook.
Oh, no.
He's a freak of nature. He just does all kinds of things.
All right, so he's one of those. This guy is multi-talented. He is a real big brain in the music world. I like that, and of course, that always deserves a big round of applause. But let's get back to this songwriting thing. So I was mentioning in the last segment, how do you determine whether it's going to be a ballad? Maybe you're writing something more up-tempo. I like your up-tempo stuff as well, for sure. Mm-hmm. And, watching you play live, you guys, when you're playing live, man, people are happy when they go to see you. And I'm not a country music guy, but I understand it. I get it. Mm-hmm. Versus being a rocker, rah, right? Everybody is just, they have this look and they're throwing up the horns and crazy stuff's going on, right? It's a different vibe altogether. It's just the room is just... It's a very happy place. It doesn't matter whether there's 10 people, 100 there, 1,000 there, whatever. It's just a happy room. And I think a lot of it sings to the idea of, first of all, your lyrics are clever. But second, you have a nice variation in tempo. And we were talking about songwriting in the last segment. Maybe you submit something to Danny. Danny, has the metronome going for the drum to keeping the time and the velocity of the song itself. But how do you determine, maybe we're going to go from something up-tempo to a ballad or a reverse? How do you discover that? And then when you and Danny put this together, for example, how do you say, okay, we're going to live with this?
Yeah, Sal, it kind of just depends on the song and the content of the song. But if it's a sad song, it's normally slower, although sometimes it is kind of fun to put an up-tempo kind of deal on a sad song, or vice versa. If it's a happy song, maybe it's slower, but it conveys a happier message. That's really just it. It's like when it's just whatever the song calls for. Actually, we were talking about metronomes. On our way over to the studio, we had a driver driving us, and this song came on the radio, and his turn signal was in time.
Really?
With the song.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I love when that happens.
Right?
It's just fun.
Click,
it's cool.
click, click,
so
click, click,
when you're
right?
driving around, listen to that and see it, like your click track, like Right?
Right?
When you turn on your turn signal.
Hey, how was that? Okay. Just
I
checking.
don't know. Was that right? Was that? Do you have a better one, Danny? Can you do it?
I don't think so.
They make all kinds of like.
All right, stick to
noises.
singing.
Okay,
yeah,
I'll
stick to singing. You're not a turn signal.
Yeah, I'm not
Okay.
a turn signal. But yeah, when you're driving around, guys, like just see if that matches your radio.
That's kind
I
of
don't know if it's universal.
That's an interesting concept, though.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I think of just my own stereotypical country music thing. I shot my dog, ran over my cat, got drunk, now I'm divorced. That kind of thing, right? And it's usually something a little bit slower, whatever, in my brain, mind you.
It's the tear in my beer stuff.
That stuff.
Yeah.
I don't even know the terminology for it.
Yeah.
But my point is that this is my preconceived notion, because for me, I think of like, look, the old classic country music stuff, I kind of like that stuff. I love the fiddle. You guys have a fiddle in your band too.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love that. Got a real cute fiddle player. She's doing her thing. She's very showy on stage, and it's great. I think it's great for the audience. And you have another singer, you have yourself, you have a great drummer, and you got a bluesy bass player too.
Yeah, man.
And this dude is as cool as the other side of the pillow, like Stuart Scott used to say. And I love the fact that he just kind of sits up there, and he has this kind of a grin on his face. But you know, he's one of those Louisiana guys.
Yeah, man.
Right? This boy could talk food, and this boy could talk sports.
Yeah, he's grooving, man.
He's a groovy guy.
Yeah.
Right? He's just one of those guys,
he's
right?
Cool.
But go back to the songwriting thing. I want to kind of put a bow on this. So let's say you write something, being Jason, for all the audience that can't see us right now. So you're writing something, and you're saying, yeah, I've got this particular tempo in my mind. But Danny says, you know, maybe it's better this way. Danny, how do you determine whether it's better this way or that way?
It's really going to be based on the feel of how it feels when we're playing it together. Certain songs will have more
of a tendency of wanting something a little more upbeat or something a little more slower, like just whatever the vibe is of the song, right?
Yeah. Now, certain songs we'll take and we'll purposely play them faster than the original.
Sure.
For example, The Devil Went Down to Georgia. We'll make that a barn burner.
Barn burner.
Yeah, most
like
songs
super fast. Yeah. Train beat thing.
Most songs we're going to match the original tempo because that's what people are used to hearing.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're doing a cover, we want it to be the way that the reason that people like the song is because of the original version. So we're going to match that in our cover shows.
Okay, let me ask you one more question about this songwriting thing, and then we're going to move on from there. So let's just say now you're doing the drum part of it, Danny, and where do you decide to put in a drum fill? What is a drum fill in the first place for the audience that doesn't know?
So a drum fill is when the drummer is going to sort of break off from the regular beat and do something that usually on the toms that will set up the next section of the song or show that you're basically making a transition, like from the verse to a chorus of a song.
Mm-hmm. Right. So it's almost like as you're going into a bridge, right? You're going and before you get to the chorus, you've got this bridge to get you over into the chorus, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of people, like, maybe you'll hear this really cool guitar part and pick your favorite song, whatever. You're like, okay, it's different than what we've been hearing. And then suddenly here's like a change in this or a change in that. Maybe it picks up a little bit or whatever it is. And then it goes into a chorus, right? So that's that proverbial bridge. So the drum fill part, what if you're in the middle of a verse? And let's say you're maybe either repeating or you have like the second part of a verse. Do you fill it up at that point? Is that so the audience knows, hey, maybe there's a whole new set of lyrics or something? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean...
Is that an easy way to describe that?
So, like our song Slow and Steady, it's kind of like down until that second verse. And Danny plays this really cool drum fill that brings us in to the second verse.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good transition for sure. And Danny plays some killer fills. You gotta come see him play sometime.
Yeah. So... Man. For all those people that don't know, by the way, we're here with Jason Owens, and you can check him out at jasonowensmusic.com. And how can people follow you again?
At Jason Owens Music on all the social medias, and you can find us on our streaming platforms, on Spotify, Apple Music, the whole deal. Just type in Jason Owens.
I see you're wearing a pretty cool hat today, and that's from Kelly Strong. Yeah. Check him out, folks. This is a really cool hat. It's a cool purple hat, and you'll see him on stage wearing this hat. And check out Kelly Strong, the California sportswear company, at kelly-strong.com. kelly-strong.com. That's kelly-strong.com. And they are one of the partners for the Sports Circus, longtime partners, longtime friends. No, we don't get anything for saying this. We're just saying it because they're cool people. That's it. And their flag store is down right across from Seaport Village in downtown San Diego. They have 10 stores on the military exchanges throughout Southern California, and just a bunch of good people and a bunch of good, happy Americans that love America, which always deserves a nice round of applause. Of course,
sir.
I don't hear anybody
Yes, sir.
clapping here. There they are. All right, they're clapping.
USA! USA!
That's right.
Yeah, buddy.
That's right. Okay, so listen, we've got about a minute and a half left in the segment. And talk real quick about the different types of venues you play and where you will play and what you don't. I won't say what you don't like to play. What are your preferred places, preferred types of venues to play?
Yeah, so my preferred is a big, like, outdoor stage, like a big party, like in a field or something, you know, or arena, whatever.
He says in a field.
Yeah.
Let's get the cows over there.
We're getting country, baby. Come on.
Right.
So yeah, just the more the merrier. You know, it makes it more fun for us, and it's more smiles.
Outdoor
So,
venues are great, like
yeah.
big barbecue kind of contest thing.
Yeah.
You know, in Chicagoland, in our last minute of the segment here, they have this thing called the Rib Fest.
Mm-hmm.
And the Rib Fest is the second biggest barbecue in the world. The biggest one is in Memphis, called the Super Bowl of Swine. It's the first week of May. It's Memphis in May. Check them out at memphisinmay.org or com or whatever the hell it is. Anyway, like the biggest concert in the world is Summerfest in Milwaukee. There's 700 plus bands there, right? Yeah. But this Naperville Rib Fest is somewhere I'd like to see you play. And I've got a funny story I'll tell you offline about Sammy Hagar.
Okay.
And it'll blow you away. It's really funny. But my point is those big outdoor festivals where there are enormous amounts of people, and you don't realize how many people are there until you get there. Like, oh my God, right? Before you know it, there's 10, 20,000 people in front of you, and you didn't realize that, right? So in the last 20 seconds, tell everybody again how to follow you, because we're going to have to wrap this segment up.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find our music wherever you stream music, just at Jason Owens, and then our social media or Instagram, Facebook, X, all that stuff is at Jason Owens Music, and our website is www.jasonowensmusic.com.
All right, and that is Jason Owens and Danny Groh, who plays a lot of instruments for these guys. Listen, folks, if you don't know them, you better ask somebody. You better go check them out, because these guys are legit. They're growing. They're getting bigger. They're getting bigger by the minute. All right, that's going to be it for this segment. We're going to be back here in just a few minutes on The Circus. Lots more to come. Don't go anywhere.
This party's dull without your smile. Why'd I let the guys drag me out for this? You're probably at home just watching TV, and I can't stop thinking about your lips. 'Cause your kisses are sweeter than this champagne. Your voice is better than the song that the DJ's playing. There's no party, no party, no party like you. And there's nobody, nobody that can light up this whole room. No Mardi Gras or Fiesta to compare it to. There's no party, girl. There's no party like you.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Thanks for everybody tuning in on all of our network affiliates. Of course, everybody on radio and all markets across the United States, on hotel television as well. Last segment talking a little bit about tempo, and I kind of like that. The tempo discussion with Jason Owens. By the way, folks, make sure you check out jasonowensmusic.com. That's jasonowensmusic.com. What I like about that was the idea that here you've got a nice similarity between sports and entertainment. And when we think about tempo and music, we have a lot of that in baseball, football, hockey, basketball. Let's go with the tempo and go with football. Let's think of the 2-minute offense versus what happens early in the game. Early in the game, just the clock is running at the regular speed, so you can just think of that as basically a regular set in music. But when it comes to music in stadiums, and what happens is the stadium music, whoever plays the music in there, I guess their music conductor or whomever, based off of the play that happened, let's just say in hockey. And so maybe there was a bad call and somebody ends up in the penalty box and you'd hear man in the box or something like that. Or you're waiting for something in football. You're waiting for an official to make a call in the instant replay booth or something. You'll hear them play this song or that song or It Can't Be Right or whatever by Billy Joel or whatever. The point is the music usually fits the theme. And folks, there is a very close connection to music and sports. A lot of people don't really realize this because you just kind of think of it when you go to the games, it's almost like being on autopilot. So when you're at the game and you're thinking, hey, that was a bad call, or that was a great call, or maybe there's some celebration and somebody wins, even at the end of the game, and you'll hear that celebrate good times, everyone, come on kind of thing. But there's so much going on in concert with the games that we're watching, whether it's even on TV or if you're live at the stadium or wherever it is. It's amazing that you actually have that as a part of your game, but it's something that when you go to a game and you don't hear music, you scratch your head. You're like, hey, wait a minute. There's something missing here, and you can't put your finger on it. Well, the reason you can't put your finger on it is because there's no music playing over a loudspeaker. So when you go to a ball game or something at a park, you don't have that. And it makes for a very different experience if you are maybe at a Park District game or something. Or I just think back to the games when I played the Mexican League. We had no music there. And you're missing the dun, 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 dun. You're missing all that stuff. You didn't have that. Or, of course, when there was a change, maybe you're in between innings or something, and there's music playing in between. You don't realize it, but the pace and velocity of the music, the tempo of the music changes with what's going on in the game. And that's the point I'm trying to make here. In baseball games, we usually have a constant in-between innings and something to keep people moving quickly to the concession stands, go get your food, and get back before the first pitch of the next inning, or get to the bathroom right away and hurry up because you're going to miss the first pitch of the next inning, whatever it is. Now, in football, of course, we don't really have that so much, but because football, they play a little, they rest a little. They play a little, and they rest a little, which is kind of true. So maybe you'll have some kind of sound effect in between each play. Now, even in baseball, between pitches, you'll have the music person will make some kind of sound on there to keep the audience's attention. Now, half the battle with that is people on their blasted telephones. Well, hey, I'm going to check in here. I'm going to a ball game, so I better check in. I better take a picture. Here's the selfie. Here's me with the mascot. Here's me with their friends and me with them and all this other garbage. Instead of actually going to the game, people are so engulfed in saying, hey, look, I'm here. Look at me, look at me, look at me. And of course, that is ridiculous. And this is exactly why, of course, I'm going to just completely digress here for a minute. This is exactly why we have netting around seemingly the whole stadium except for the bleachers for home runs. We have netting all around the seats because people are so busy on their telephones, they just don't pay attention to the game. And when you go to a game, let's face it, games nowadays, they're expensive. I did a piece a long time ago, and it discussed what the cost was to go to a game, to sit in the bleachers at Wrigley Field. And I grew up going to those games. And it used to cost me $1 to get in. Of course, I would go to the doubleheaders when I was a kid, so I'd get 2 baseball games for $1. It cost me $0.25 to take the train there. Then I get a free transfer at Washington, change at Washington, go up to the Howard Street, get off at, of course, Wrigley Field at Addison, and I'd get in for $1. So I'm $1.25 in so far. It cost me $0.25 for a hot dog, $0.25 for a Coke, and $0.25 for the ride back. So for $2, I get the doubleheader. But I was there with my friend Jimmy, and all we did was we watched the games over and over. And because we were both ball players as little kids, and we kind of grew up to do that anyway. But the idea is you go to these games and you watch the games, and you go to the games to be at the games. You don't go to the games just to be seen at the games, which I think a lot of people do. And they're so concerned about, hey, look at me, I'm over here, I'm over here. We didn't have social media back then. And what was really cool, as I completely digress from this, the idea is when we had wired telephones, everybody had a landline in their house. You couldn't walk around on the telephone outside your house. So technically, you were free. You were out there, and you were free from being tied to your telephone. And so now we have essentially full-blown computers in our pockets in these phones, so we could do so much and check in here. If we don't like the music they're playing on the loudspeaker, well, guess what? We can always change that music, which I think is complete lunacy. I just hate the idea of taking away from the experience at the ball games. And we see this a lot, even at football games. At hockey games, not so much. Basketball games, maybe not so much, because there's constant action in hockey and basketball, fast-paced. And so we don't really see it too much there, but we certainly see it in baseball games, and we do see it sometimes in football games. But what I don't like is when you go to a game and everybody's so busy doing everything except watching the game. It's like, why the hell are you even going in the first place? What a colossal waste of money, time, and frankly, it's a waste of a seat. Maybe somebody was given that seat just so they could say, look at me. And that's the kind of nonsense that happens on a regular basis in today's games. But back to the tempo of music. Those people that are there are driven to do certain things, almost subliminally, if you will, because of the tempo of the music. Or they're held on the edge of their seat because of a call. We're waiting for the booth review, or maybe it's from Toronto in a hockey game, or in New York for the NFL, or Major League Baseball, or something to that effect, right? We think of what is the call going to be, so there's the suspense-filled music. And we're going to have that because it's going to keep you on the edge of the seat. It's going to get you chewing faster, chewing your hot dog faster, eating your popcorn faster, eating your pretzel faster, drinking your beers or your soda faster, whatever the hell you're drinking. My point is the tempo also, it makes you do things you don't really realize that. So when you're at a concert, let's go back to the segment with Jason Owens. Of course, check him out at jasonowensmusic.com. Of course, he always deserves a nice round of applause here. When you go into the concert, or when you go into a show, there are up-tempo songs that make you get out and want to dance a little bit, right? You get a little dance, you get a little bit sweaty, right? What do you want? You want a nice cold drink right afterwards. And then you'll have the slow ones, you have the ballads, right? And so maybe there's a slow song, and maybe it'll change you to having, for example, just hypothetically, maybe you'll have, out of your adult beverages, maybe you'll have a beer on a fast one, and maybe you'll have a glass of wine on a slow one. I don't know. All I'm saying is the music has everything to do with what is going on in the grand scheme of things with games, with concerts. And the dialogue with Jason and Danny is a good one because a lot of people don't really realize how they are, I don't want to use the word manipulated, but I'm going to use it anyway. The word manipulated, how they are essentially told what to do, and not in a bad way. It's just they're doing something fun, but you don't realize that the music is influencing you. And so that's the interesting part about, for example, this segment, because we don't really get a lot of that. But what we do get is something that says, I never really thought of that. How many people are going to think of that? Because this is kind of a big deal, folks. And at the end of the day, we have to say, well, what is going to influence us from doing X, Y, or Z? Well, music influences us. That's exactly what we're after. And so certain kinds of music will influence you in a different way. So for example, if you're listening to blues or gospel, it's going to introduce you to different thoughts in your head than metal or hard rock is going to versus rap or some kind of other form of dance music. There are different things that come across in different types of music. Now, again, as I've gone to see Jason play several times, I will tell you that people are happy at his shows. They just are happy. And frankly, I've never really experienced that day in and day out. I went to see him for a week straight right here in Las Vegas. Well, actually 6 out of 7 days nonetheless, over at the MGM Grand Hotel. And I watched the people. I watched them go out to the dance floor. They were smiling. They were doing whatever dance they were doing. I don't know the first thing about the country dancing things. Some people were doing line dances. I know what those are. But I found that everybody was happy out there. And so when you go to these games, most people are happy, right? So there's a common theme because the music makes them happy quite a bit. If they don't understand the game, it's the music that turns them around. It turns their attitude around, and it makes them happy on top of it. Now, I'm sure you all have experienced this. I know I've experienced it. But ultimately, when you go to these games, you say, you know, I really enjoyed that particular, I don't know, that 5-minute stretch. Now, that 5-minute stretch of the game or whatever, or that experience, the overall experience at the stadium, may not have been the actual, for example, hockey game, because maybe it was in between segments or you were in between periods. And when you're in between periods, you hear different music. And guess what happens? A lot of things happen. And so what happens is as you're watching what's going on, for example, on the ice, and when you're watching, maybe it's the Pee Wee hockey or something, and there's some circus music. Hey, we've got to be careful, of course, with the circus music, but there's something going on that's distracting you from the game, or it's in between periods. Those are the things that you just may remember. And I think a lot of people seem to take those things home. Hey, I remember watching those kids. And I remember watching my nephew. It was before a Blackhawks game. Yes! And it was, of course, round of applause for him. And it was my nephew, Eric, who turned out to play hockey on a high level. It was before the Blackhawks and the San Jose Sharks. And this was a great experience for me because here I got to actually call the game in the TV booth, and that was great. So I got to call the game, and then I got to go to the locker room after the game, inside the Blackhawks locker room. It was great because the players were coming in and talking to the kids. I even have a picture of my nephew with Patrick Sharp, and I still use that as his call, I guess, the photo on my telephone. And we can do that because we have really cool smartphones these days. And now my nephew is well into his 20s, but this is when he was just, a little kid. And then what was better about that after that experience, which is a great experience, I get back to my seated area, and I'm listening to the music, and I'm watching our old superhero from the Blackhawks, Jeremy Roenick. Of course, Jeremy always gets that big round of applause. Alex Ovechkin plays a lot like him. And I'm watching JR because he was a real fan favorite in Chicago. And I love the fact that Jeremy Roenick would do what? He would throw the pucks to the kids. And he was doing that. He was the last guy on the ice throwing pucks over the glass. He was really loved in Chicago, still is. Tell you what, folks, listen. The music that was played at the same time when JR was doing that was something that I won't really forget. But it was a personal experience for me and for the kids that got the pucks and everything. And I'm way up at the top of the stadium. But my point is, the music really influences your experience. And so whether it's an up-tempo or maybe it's in a minor or a flat or something where maybe it's a sad song, think back, folks. Music influences everything we do. That's going to do it for the circus today, folks. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, and we'll see you next time right here on your favorite station. Until then, so long, everyone.